Good morning and welcome to the Community Voice on this Friday, January 5th. It's a little bit of a chilly one. Grab a jacket if you're heading out to work right now. We are joined today by Fred O'Neill, a committee member with the NAACP here in Carrollton. And we're going to be discussing upcoming holiday that's coming up next Monday, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. holiday celebration. And this is kind of a special time for Martin Luther King Jr. because it's actually on his birthday this year, correct?
That's correct.
And the NAACP has a lot of great events to celebrate this, not just on Monday, but throughout the entire week. And I just kind of want you to go over those events really quickly before we dive into our discussion, if that's okay.
Oh, sure. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it. This year, our event, the theme for our event this year is Unity in the Community. What we thought, we have been celebrating this event, the ecumenical or just a recognition of Dr. Martin Luther King, starting about 25 years ago. So this is the silver anniversary. What the committee thought that would be appropriate would be if we could take that whole celebration and expand it for a whole weekend. It's going all the way back. So the events are as such. We have, beginning on the Saturday, January the 13th at 12 p.m., we have something called Millennial Moments, which will take place at the Catherine Hardy Lavender Center, which is on Willie North Street. And really that's a dialogue between generations where we're really trying to tie the generations to the goal of what Dr. King stood for and what his initiatives were. It'll be a very interesting dialogue. That evening at 8 p.m., we have the King Holiday Weekend Celebration Black Tie Gala featuring the incomparable Teresa Hightower. Teresa is a nationally known singer and actress. She's been on a number of movies and headquartered out of Atlanta, but has a huge presence around the country. And she will be performing as well as some other events on that evening, but that's at 8 p.m. at the train depot, Carrollton Train Depot. So that'll be a wonderful event. We're looking forward to that. The Sunday, we have a commemorative service, which will take place at First Baptist Church of Carrollton, which will just be a recognition service during their morning hour. And that starts at 10:30 at First Baptist Church of Carrollton, Old Bremen Road. 6 p.m. is the ecumenical service, which will take place at the Carrollton Cultural Arts Center. With the speaker is Reverend Charles Chuck Thomas from Victory Tabernacle Church. And this is being coordinated by the Mrs. Lori Bell in conjunction with the Whosoever Will Christ Centered Church and Bold Life for Christ and the MLK Coalition. On Monday, the NAACP, starting at 11 o'clock, will host their 22nd annual Dr. Martin Luther King parades in town. This has been very well received and very well attended. The theme of this year's parade is the philosophy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King in love, unity, and peace. Following that event, since it actually occurs on his birthday, we have a day of service event that will take place right after that, and that'll be on the Head Start building at Willie North Drive, and that'll help pull some community support together. And that was one of the initiatives from the national NAACP. And then finally that evening, Monday, January 15th, that evening there will be an ecumenical service that will take place at Mount Prospect Church in Billerica. So it's really a community effort for Carroll County. We want to have an event that everyone could participate in, and so we're looking forward to a great weekend.
That all sounds great. Now, one of the things that I love is the day on instead of day off. I saw that quote from you guys, and I think that's just a great thing because I don't think Martin Luther King Jr. ever took a day off.
I don't think so.
Even on Sundays, he was preaching, so I don't think he ever took days off, so that's great. One question I want to ask is, it's almost 50 years that he's since his assassination.
Right.
This is the 50th anniversary, I think, April 4th.
April the 4th, 1968.
Why is it so important still to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day?
Dr. Martin Luther King really meant a lot to all of us. I mean, his initiatives and what he really stood for, sometimes it's a little difficult for people to digest, but really it focused on fairness for all individuals, equal rights for individuals. He also was very big on empowerment, economic empowerment, and fairness. And so part of his dialogue all that time was to really encourage people to work together, live together. His big view was nonviolence in terms of how you got things done, peaceful coalition, peaceful protests. And so really, it's still important for us today because, we still have to all agree we want to live together in perfect harmony as well as we can. So I think his initiatives are very critical as they were back in 1968. I was 8 years old. I can remember it just like it was yesterday. And I remember that turbulent time we were going through. And but I do know that his dream still lives. It's very important that we celebrate for a number of reasons again, so that our country continue to grow, our world can grow, and also that we pass this through generations. Because as that time has gone forward, like you said, that 50 years, that legacy is very hard to transition between communities. That's one of the reasons why we have the one event we have, because we want people to understand throughout generations, what it all means. What does the work he did, what it stood for? Why did he take those steps? Why did he go to Birmingham and write those letters from Birmingham jail? Why was he leading the protests in 1963? For the workers, sanitation workers. Why was that important? Well, it's important because it made a difference for people to realize where we are today.
And you talk about the intergenerational discussion. Can you go over what has happened in the past 50 years? What is different from 1968 to 2018 that maybe a new generation, I'm a millennial,
okay,
but a millennial may not understand the transition that we've had in the past 50 years?
Okay, I think part of the transition has been, the biggest thing I've seen is equal rights for all, that people are recognized for their efforts. Part of his great speeches was he wanted to be recognized, but the color of skin should not have a difference in how people are perceived. During that time, I remember in those 60s, there was a lot of changes going on. We had a lot of revolutions, I guess, in terms of the way we looked at it, between races, between generations. We were right in the middle of Woodstock. We had a lot going on. And still, what was so important was that people's rights were still always respected. Since that time, and the things you dealt with back in that time was there was always concern about segregation, or maybe someone not getting a fair shake in terms of what they needed to do. What we've seen over the years, we've seen much more dialogue as it relates to how people interact with others and how people should be perceived, discrimination, equal rights for not only for races, between races, but also between generations, lifestyle preferences, and those kinds of things. So I've seen that evolution. I've worked in a lot of different capacities in our firm. I've seen a lot of different things where we begin to really understand that differences add to character, add to organizations, and add to what we want to do in community or in schools or in churches, what have you. So the respect for that has become very prevalent. And as a result, I think today we've just seen much more opportunities as it relates to that. Now, we're not a perfect society, but we are moving toward the direction. And again, a lot of that was what he promoted and pro-offered many years ago, to say, let's work together for the common good.
And you say that we're not a perfect society, but we are moving toward that. I'm going to read a quote. In his I Have a Dream speech, Dr. King said, "I have a dream that one day little black boys and girls will be holding hands with little white boys and girls."
Right.
This is metaphorical, maybe also literal, but metaphorical. Do you think that this dream has been realized?
I think the intent of his dream was that we could all live in unity, and that dream is moving closer to reality as we learn to live within with each other. Prior to that, there was always a concern that maybe we couldn't coalesce as a society just because of issues such as race or those kinds of things, and that penetrated down. That had impacts on people, how people end up in life and society. But today, and I think he wanted people to have the merits based on their character, not the color of their skin. And so that's what the intent of that was. We're seeing, and I believe we see that. I mean, we see that in a lot of different things. We have a community here that people work together, for a common cause in many cases. I've seen situations here we've had a tragedy where we have a need to raise funds or to help out. And at that point, I mean, we bypass all the differences to say, let's pull together. And that's kind of what he wanted to see, the way I understood his writings, going forward, in all our efforts. So I think we're moving in that right direction. The last few years, I'll tell you, I mean, it's been a little bit challenged because of some of the issues we've seen nationally. But in the scheme of things, I still believe that, we all agree on about 95% of the same thing. I was a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. I worked both sides of the aisle. I did all that, and for our firm, and I still believe that we agree on about 95%. It's that 5% and how to get things done is what draws the differences. So I think we're moving in that direction.
It's a great way to put it. And we are sitting with Mr. Fred O'Neill, committee member with the NAACP, discussing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and that is going to be coming up next Monday. We are going to take a quick break and hear a message from Tanner Health System.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
So even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today I have a dream that one day down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is a faith that I go back to the South with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning, my country, tears of thee. Sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring, and if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring, and when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Inspirational words from an inspirational man. That was Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and we are here discussing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and a special day coming up. It's actually going to be the 35th anniversary of that as a holiday. It was signed in 1983 by President Ronald Reagan, and we are sitting with Mr. Fred O'Neill, as always, a committee member of the NAACP, but we're also joined by two new guests. The co-chairperson of the MLK Parade, Miss Denise Parrin. How are you doing today?
Doing well, yourself?
Doing great. And we also have joining us the Director of Diversity Education and Community Initiatives, Deidre Rouse. How are you doing today?
Great. Good morning.
Excellent. And we were discussing a lot of things to do with MLK, and we're obviously going to get to the parade and to what the University of West Georgia is doing with diversity education. But one thing I wanted to discuss and hopefully get all y'all's opinion on, we're seeing a little bit of a racial divide in this country. We discussed it a little bit earlier, especially in the past few years. We can all remember just a couple of months ago what happened in Charlottesville. And one of the big hallmarks of Dr. King's methods was nonviolence. So how can both sides of this rift that we're currently in use the principles and methods of Dr. King?
Well, one of the things when you talk about Dr. King, as you already said, he does represent nonviolence, the civil rights movement of that particular era. And when you talk also with what his legacy that he has left in terms of his family at the ML King Center, they do have about 6 principles of nonviolence. And I think that's one of the measures that we could definitely use as a community, as a city, as a state, as a country, is to hold different forums, have those honest discussions, because I think, and I'm really sure when you just play the I Have a Dream speech, we all want the same things. Most people want a safe, welcoming, inclusive environment for themselves and their families. And so the way to do that is to come together and have those conversations. Oftentimes when you have conversations with individuals, you usually come away with a different mindset as opposed to preconceived notions, stereotypes, misunderstandings, misperceptions that you may have had about an individual, about a group, about a certain cohort.
Seems like there's a lot more yelling and a lot less conversation actually happening in this day and age. And, you know, what are y'all's opinion, Mr. O'Neill and Ms. Parrin, about this nonviolence?
I agree with what she said, but I also know that there's got to be a lot of prayer. Prayer before, after, and during any conversations, any meetings. And as Mr. O'Neill said earlier, the majority of the people want peace. The majority of the people want unity, and the majority of the people do share love. But it's a 5% or more or less that don't get it that cause the biggest problems. So our biggest goal is to be able to reach them. And the only way that I know, the best way I know, is to stay in continued prayer.
And you bring up prayer, and I think that's an interesting subject. Many of the events that you guys have coming up next weekend involve churches, are going to be located in churches and involve preachers and pastors. And Dr. King was also a pastor and a impassioned Christian. How important is religion and Christianity kind of in this movement to equality?
Well, I would say, if you study religion or look at, the religious principles, they always focused on respect, and they always, were directed by a common goal, a God or higher being. So in view of that, that is very necessary as we go forward in terms of really trying to coalesce individuals together. I think the forums he set forth, a lot of his work, a lot of the organizational things were done via the church. The church has always been an institution in our communities, and so we want to continue that presence. I think that commonness, because of the realm of church or of the philosophy of faith, really sometimes lends people on a different view on how they pursue things. I think back to the notion we had earlier about, how to deal with this. One thing that's unique between, you asked me about the 60s and today, and part of this disconnect or this confusion we've had those last few years, some of it has to do with like information is even dispersed. That's a whole new realm when you communication, technology, and you never really get a chance to really, as Deidre, my colleague, talked about, connect with individuals. Because if you talk to them, you do find out that most of us have the same goals in life. Sometimes we don't understand that, we don't perceive that, but today that's one of the things that's been different. So a lot of that dialogue via church, via common theme, will help us bring those notions back together, I believe.
And I do want to add that when you talk about Dr. King, and yes, he was a Baptist minister and of the Christian faith, since he represented nonviolence and peace, he was willing, along with several other warriors who supported the movement, to reach across the aisle to all faiths. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just Christians. It could be Muslims. It could be those who are the Buddhist faith, when you bring about that particular principle of inclusiveness.
Absolutely. That's a great sentiment. And you guys are listening to the Community Voice. We're going to take a quick break and hear a message from Tanner Health System. But when we get back, we're going to be discussing all the celebrations that we're going to have, all the fun things that are going to be going on next weekend right here in Carroll County. So don't go anywhere, and we'll be right back after a message from Tanner Health System.
At Tanner, we're advancing health throughout West Georgia and East Alabama because we know that exceptional care isn't based on how many patients we serve, but how well we serve them. That's why we're focused on quality, delivering the best possible care for our patients. It's why we're expanding our clinical services and building new facilities to serve our growing community. And it's why we're looking beyond our hospitals and medical practices to develop sustainable wellness and preventive health programs in our region. What makes a hospital great has changed. It's not how many beds we have. It's how well we care for the neighbors who need them. Delivering the right care to every patient, every time, is how Tanner is advancing health with medicine beyond measure. Learn more at tanner.org or find a physician on our medical staff by calling 770-214-CARE.
Welcome back to the Community Voice. I'm your host, Luke Lukert. We are discussing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his holiday coming up next Monday and all the fun stuff that is going to be happening next weekend in celebration. It is a sad kind of occasion. It is the 50th anniversary, basically. April 4th will be the 50th anniversary of his assassination. But we will be remembering his life and all the good works he did and all the changes that he brought to this country. And to celebrate that, there's going to be 3 days of great events, and we have the co-chairperson of the MLK Parade, Ms. Perrin. Discuss the parade for us. How fun is it going to be? What can we expect when we go on Monday to see this parade?
Well, the parade is going to be wonderful as always as we celebrate our 22nd annual parade. Our theme this year being the philosophy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., love, unity, and peace. Parade will be Monday, January the 15th, beginning at 11 o'clock. Going along with that philosophy this year, our theme of this year, our Grand Marshal representatives will be Miss Nellie Dukes and Mr. Derek Newton. We also will be having a special honoree, 11-year-old Caleb Thomas, who recently was in a movie, A Question of Faith. This parade will honor our community, and we're inviting all community churches, organizations, fraternities, sororities, individuals to participate. And again, we're very excited.
That sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. And when exactly is that again?
It's going to be on Monday, January the 15th, 2018, beginning at 11 o'clock a.m.
11 a.m.
Parade lineup will begin at 9 o'clock at the Bradley Street Train Depot parking lot.
Excellent. So get out there at 11 a.m. Go watch the parade. It'll be a lot of fun. And there's one particular event that I would like your opinion, Ms. Rouse. You work with a lot of millennials at the University of West Georgia. And one of the events that you guys have coming up is the Carrollton Cultural Arts Center is Millennial Moments, which will be a multi-generational conversation and dialogue to discuss, the generation. It's Friday morning. The generational gap in fulfilling the dream of Dr. King. So can you discuss what we can expect out of that multi-generational dialogue?
We're very excited about the Millennial Moments panel that will occur on that Saturday at noon at the Captain Harvender Lavender Center. This will actually be a panel of millennials, not just myself, but Pastor Felix Moten, Audrey North, Rebecca Smith. We've been working together, having a conversation to put this together. But one of the different things that we have done, we're actually talking to the millennials, and they will serve on the panel because we want to know what are the issues that are important to you? What do you see some of the issues that your particular cohort are facing? So listening to some of their comments and some of the conversations has been interesting. Just to give you a little teaser, some have mentioned things such as their generation, it seems to be a little bit more difficult to find a job, even with the college education. They've mentioned different things about the various civil rights movement. They've also mentioned things, as my colleague Fred alluded to earlier, as well as Denise, technology. They recognize that there needs some of those more soft skills since they are accustomed and have grown up with technology, from all of the social media to being able to do anything virtually from your cell phone. So I think it's going to be a great dialogue and conversation. Pastor Felix Moten will be a moderator for that particular evening, that afternoon. We have a couple local organizations who have donated some refreshments, so there will be some refreshments there for all in attendance. So we're expecting a good crowd to come out and listen to our millennials because all generations need support.
Absolutely, and they're the generation to move on with this issue and to improve the quality of life for all in America. And we have just a couple of minutes left. What is some advice that you can give the next generation to improve equality and to really improve the dream that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had? Just a little snippet of advice.
I would say learn about Dr. King. I mean, spend some time to really embrace what he stood for, what it meant, and go deep. And certainly these millennials groups, they have the tools. They can go deep and really research it, but really understand that. And then from there, take those principles with you. I tell people all the time, I'm a business guy. I said, everything's done through a relationship. I may email you to do something, but eventually it's a relationship that's going to get things done.
I would like to take the last few minutes to let the audience know that it's not too late to register for the parade. And for further information, contact Quintine Valeris, 770-834-3271, or myself at 770-3090-885.
And you wanted to discuss really quickly a program at the University of West Georgia, correct?
Yes, this will be the 9th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. program at the University of West Georgia, and it will take place January the 31st, 2018. The speaker is Dr. Marco Clark out of Baltimore, Maryland, who is an esteemed educator, and our theme is "Injustice Anywhere is a Threat to Justice Everywhere," a quote, of course, by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. That event is free, 7 o'clock p.m. We expect all to come out, and all are welcome.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. We have a lot of great things coming up for you guys next weekend. And
finally, for event tickets for any events, you can contact me, Fred O'Neill, 770-328-6420. Thank you.
There you go. And I hope you guys have a great Friday and a happy weekend.